No more NFL power rankings this week at Chat Sports, the latest victim of cancel culture. Instead, playoff picture in lieu because, well, you know, the bad teams aren't going to make it. They don't care. And the good teams want to know what their playoff standings are since we're past the halfway point. Before we get into an in-depth breakdown of where the AFC and NFC sits, I want you guys to head down to the pinned comment and let me know who you think the best team in the NFL is right now. We'll begin with the NFC. We'll spend a brief overview, then dive in more in depth on all these teams. The Cardinals, number 1 seed for now. Packers, Bucs, and Cowboys all lead their divisions for the time being. The Rams have the 5 seed. Saints at 6. The Falcons at 7. Then a bunch of 5-loss teams or more hanging out there on the outside looking. And it is very much a top-heavy NFC playoff picture. The top 5, all I think legit threats this year. But we begin with that number 1 squad, the Arizona Cardinals, who beat the 49ers with a backup quarterback, no DeAndre Hopkins, and other key pieces out on defense as well. Arizona has arrived as a legit Super Bowl contender this year. We asked you guys at the top of the show who the best team in the NFL was. This is my answer. I think Arizona should have that number 1 spot. Now, tough division, but they got the Panthers this week. I think they get another dub. All right, the Green Bay Packers are still the 2 seed in the NFC. Now, a disappointing but rather expected loss against the Chiefs with no Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, could return this week against the Seattle Seahawks. As a gambling man, I think he will return. We'll spend some more time on this game later on. Let's go to the number 3 seed now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fresh off the bye, now they get the Washington football team in Week 10 on the road. Washington gave them a decent run last year in their Super Bowl season, but I think the Packers win that one. Number 4, the current number 4 seed, I should say, the Dallas Cowboys. I think took a little bit too much hype around them. They smelled it. They felt good, and boy, did they lay an egg in Week 9. An embarrassing loss that is not as close as the score might indicate at home to the Denver Broncos. It is very much time for a get-right type of game against the Falcons, who, for now at least, are inside the playoff picture. We'll spend some more time on Atlanta, but first a question for you, the people. Do you think the Cowboys are frauds? Be honest with me. You can be a hater or a supporter if you want. Y for yes and for no. Head down to that comment section and spam your responses for me. Let's look now at the wild card, and we'll focus in here more so on the 3 teams currently in it right now, which is the Rams at 7-2, the Saints at 5-3, and the Falcons at 4-4. The Panthers and others are lurking. We'll hit them briefly again in a moment. As I mentioned, I think a big 5 in the NFL, or in the NFC. And that 5th team is the LA Rams. Now, a pretty disappointing loss at home against the Titans. The Matthew Stafford MVP race did take a bit of a hit with a pretty bad showing. Again, Week 9, for whatever reason, was the week of good teams, good offenses, great quarterbacks, good quarterbacks, bad. And that was the case for Matthew Stafford. A pretty key game coming up against the Niners. That's almost a must-win game for the Rams. Remember, division winners get the first 4 seeds. The Rams might have the second or third best record in the NFL, but if they don't catch the Cardinals, they're going on the road in the wild card round of the playoffs. The Saints, meanwhile, well, they didn't have Jameis Winston in. They lost against the Falcons. The normally stout defense didn't have its best stuff, allowing 27 points to Atlanta, who will get to more in depth. Now the Saints take on the current number 1 seed in the AFC. That is the Tennessee Titans, which it's not exactly what I think they're hoping for. It might be a back-to-back loss. That's a key pivotal game for both those teams, one of the better ones this week. Now today's show, as I mentioned, I'm a gambling man, and hey, how about BetUS helping us out? You can get a 125% deposit bonus when you go to chatsports.com/bet and you use promo code NFL Daily. On top of that, if you pay attention and follow these instructions, you will get a free jersey. You got to use promo code NFL Daily at chatsports.com/bet. You must sign up and deposit at least $100. Now, when you do that, you will get the deposit bonus and an NFL jersey. Now, we don't have every single jersey available, but we do have a bunch of different players for every single team in a variety of colors. I feel very confident that there will be a jersey, if not multiple jerseys, for your favorite team that you can't wait to get your hands on. Here's some of our available inventory as well. We will need, of course, your shipping address, your jersey size, selection, color, etc. Was a screenshot of your first bet, your BetUS account number, to make sure, you're not lying to us. So email us jersey@chatsports.com with the information. That email, by the way, will be in both the comment section and the description. But please, I beg of you, make my life easier. It's not been easy as of late. Chatsports.com/bet, and then use the promo code NFL Daily. Don't forget to do those two things. To number 7, as mentioned, the Atlanta Falcons, as they have the number 7 seed, as weird as that might sound, right? They've won 3 of their last 4 games. They're getting hot at the right time. If they can beat the Cowboys on the road, make it 4 of their last 5, they're going to put themselves in a really good position to make the postseason. Now, with that 7th seed added, there are other teams who are probably not that good that are just a game back. Carolina's a half game back, but they've collapsed as of late. The Minnesota Vikings have had creative ways to lose game. Seattle is getting back Russell Wilson. We'll get to them more in depth in a moment. The Niners are still in it. And if you're an Eagles, Giants, or Bears fan, maybe Washington as well, you can kind of talk yourself into making that late season push. The Lions, no. All right, Seahawks and the Packers. This is, I think, one of the better NFC versus NFC matchups this week. The odds you see here, some sites have it off book at the current moment, but I have seen the Packers as a 4-point favorite right now, which clearly is indicative of Aaron Rodgers playing against Seattle. That one is one of the better Sunday afternoon games this week. Now, let's say the Falcons collapse, right? Let's say they don't make the playoffs for whatever weird reason. Who does? Who of the top 4 teams right now on the outside looking in has the best shot of making the playoffs this season? Type CAR for the Carolina Panthers, MIN for the Minnesota Vikings, SEA for the Seattle Seahawks, or type in SF for the 49ers. Over now to the AFC Playoff Picture. Again, brief overview here. Titans 7-2 have the number 1 seed for now. The Ravens at 6-2. Then the Chargers, Bills as the division leaders at 5-3. Same mark as the Raiders and Steelers. And then look at this. 5 teams at 5-4, led by the Patriots and the Chiefs, Browns, Bengals, and Broncos. A not as top-heavy, but a deeper playoff picture right now in the AFC. Tennessee held on to that number 1 seed with a win over the LA Rams without Derrick Henry. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a big deal to take down a playoff Super Bowl threat without arguably your best player. Even if he is a back, that's a really good sign for the Titans. A bit of a slow start. They are hot right now, though. The Ravens, man, they always play close games, right? They take down Minnesota in overtime, 21 unanswered to help them pull out the W. Now they play on Thursday Night Football against a not good Dolphins team. It's on the road. That makes it tough. They've been hit hard by the injury bug, but the Ravens keep finding ways to win football games. The number 3 seed now, the LA Chargers. They snapped a 2-game, not great losing streak when they barely beat the Philadelphia Eagles. LA has played a lot of close games this year, sometimes against lesser competition. That is a red flag, but for now at least, in a very tough AFC West, they have that division lead. The Buffalo Bills. We mentioned the Cowboys laying an egg against the Broncos. I still think this was the most shocking and disappointing loss in the NFL last week. You lose 9-6 against the crappy Jags team? what are we doing, Buffalo? Like, the Bills have one of the premier offenses. 6 points against the Jags? I had said if they had only scored 6 points in a quarter against the Jags, that would have been bad. For the entire game? Wow. Good news, another bad team coming up. It should be a bounce-back week for Buffalo. Let's go circle the wagons, Bills Mafia. I got a bit of a long trip. We're not going to get to this one today, but I would very much like to indulge my immaturity by getting to 269,000 subscribers here, 269,000, excuse me, subs here on Chat Sports. Do it for the memes. If you haven't already, subscribe, and, oh, by the way, you can get free videos here every day on the NFL, NBA, and more at Chat Sports. Let's look now at the wild card situation. Predominantly focused in here on the Steelers, Raiders, and the Patriots, because there's a lot going on here in this one. We'll kind of bounce around a little bit with all these games because the Chiefs play the Raiders and Browns for the Patriots. So we'll focus in to start on the first 5-3 team we're going to discuss, or first 5-win team, I should say. The Raiders. That's a tough loss to the Giants. Look, Vegas is dealing with so much right now off the field, from John Gruden to Henry Ruggs to Damon Arnett. That's a lot for people to deal with. It's a lot for a locker room to deal with. Now they've got a very pivotal game coming up against KC. We'll spend some more time on that in a little bit. But first, I want you guys to make your predictions. Who wins the AFC West this year? All four teams are above 500, at least for now. That will technically change as long as it's not a tie, right? But ties are un-American. So you got LAC for the Chargers, DEN for the Denver Broncos, KC for the Chiefs, or LV for the Raiders. The 6th seed, now, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They barely held on against the Bears. Taunting is a stupid rule, whatever. Now they play the Lions, and they're a bad football team. Steelers are hot. The schedule does get tougher later on in the year, but in Big Ben's probably last year, they are making a playoff push. The Patriots, meanwhile, hey, they've won 4 of the last 5 games. And that lone loss, by the way, was actually a very surprising one in overtime against the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll spend some more time on the Patriots and the Browns here in just a second. But first, let's go back to the Chiefs and the Raiders. Because remember, the Chiefs are on the outside looking in right now of that AFC playoff picture. They go on the road, Sunday Night Football, and it is the Chiefs, folks, who are actually the favorites in this one. They are a 2.5-point favorite on the road against the Raiders. So who do you have in this one? Type C for the Chiefs or type in R for the Raiders. KC's favored, but man, Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't look right this year. So let me know in the comments who you've got winning, C or R. All right, the others, right? The outside looking in here, kind of rapid fire. We mentioned the Chiefs, right? The Bengals and Broncos are both 5-4. It is a stacked and deep AFC. That's going to make things interesting. The Colts are hanging around at 4-5. Then there's a massive gap. The Jets, Jags, Dolphins, Texans are not contenders. So for what ends up being, let's say, 3 spots here in the wild card, you've got, I think, 7 teams fighting right now. Those 4 on the outside looking in. And there is a game with massive implications this weekend as the Browns go on the road to take on the New England Patriots. The Patriots, meanwhile, are a 1-point favorite in that game. That makes things interesting. I like the Browns in that one, but the loser of this game, assuming there are no ties for Founding Un-American, would then drop to 5-5. And given that you've got all these teams at 5-3 or 5-4, that game is going to have massive wild card implications for tiebreakers. Look, we are not yet to any clinching scenarios or elimination scenarios or getting to tiebreakers. That's going to matter as we move on. Every game matters in the NFL. Week 10, all those 5-win AFC teams, they badly need to pick up wins.